Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, please let us take our seats. Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Professor Kithure Kindiki, Honorable Alice Wahome, Cabinet Secretary for Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development, Republic of Kenya, Mr. Moses Vilakati, AU Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment, Anna Claudia Rosberg, UN Under-Secretary General and Executive Director of the UN Habitat, Thamo Habib, Managing Director, Shelter Afrique Development Bank, Honorable Judith Nabakoba, Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Republic of Uganda, Foreign Ministers, Heads of Delegation, Principal Secretaries led by Mr. Charles Hinga, PS State Department of Housing, all distinguished and invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, sir, with your permission, allow me now to cede the stage for my co-host, Mr. Mark Masai, to lead the rest of the program. Karibuni sana. Asante.
Thank you so much to Alex Maina, who is the State Master of Ceremony. Let's appreciate him, and he'll be supporting us as well as we continue in the conclusion of the second Africa Urban Forum. It's good to see you, Honourable Deputy President, Your Excellency, and also thank you for your patience, and it has been an engaging 3 days. 3 days, of course, of deliberating on how we will make adequate housing for all a reality. Let me call on someone just to run with this session, someone who has probably been dreaming everything about Africa Urban Forum, and that is none other than our host, the Principal Secretary in the State Department for Housing and Urban Development, Charles Hinga. Karibu, karibu. Let's give him a hand as he comes to stage.
Thank you very much, Mark, Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Ministers, Excellency Ambassadors, distinguished guests, good afternoon or good evening. Your Excellency, we are delighted with your presence here today. And this area of KICC has witnessed some of the most robust conversation and debates. But Your Excellency, it's not just debates. They were debates with very clear focus on how are we going to fund adequate housing. Take this moment to thank and I am also very happy that you had a chance, most of you had a chance to visit our affordable housing programs and our Nairobi River programs, and I believe that you have taken something back home. Your Excellency, this is the last session, and part of this session we are going to have the reading and the presentation of the declaration. But before we do that, allow me to invite Honorable Judith Nabakoba, Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development from the Republic of Uganda. She's been a great co-host with my minister to come and make her remarks. Let's give her a round of applause.
This is the last one, so if you make a mistake.
Thank you so much.
No point, they will have no
the PS, Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, the Honorable Ministers present, Excellency the Ambassadors, the Commissioner, African Union Commission, ED, UN Habitat, ladies and gentlemen. As we come to the end of the 3 high-impact days of the second African Urban Forum here in Nairobi, allow me to thank you for the resilience and all the sacrifices. I'm particularly encouraged by how far we have come together from the early discussions of STC number 8, where the idea of the first Africa Urban Forum was hatched and convened the first African Urban Forum meeting in Ethiopia, and now here we are for the second Africa Urban Forum in Nairobi. We did not gather here simply to speak a lot, but we came here to work. I have seen the quality of dialogue we have had during the 3 days. The Africa is ready to move from ambition to implementation. I once again extend my profound appreciation to HE, the President of the Republic of Kenya, and the people and the government of Kenya for hosting the second Africa Urban Forum, and for the warm hospitality, excellent organization, and strong leadership that has made Africa Urban Forum here in Nairobi a successful one. Kenya's hosting has done more than providing the venue. It has created a serious platform for practical exchange, exhibition, coalition building, and also a shared focus on solutions that can be delivered at scale. We want to thank you so much for your leadership. What we have affirmed together is simple and powerful. Africa's urban future is not a side issue. It is the main stage for structural confirmation or transformation, inclusion, and climate resilience. Our cities are where we will win our biggest gains in jobs, productivity, innovation, but they are also where the cost of interaction and inaction will show up first if we do not plan well on our finances wisely, but also governance effectively. This is why housing, basic services, and urban infrastructure must be treated as core national development priorities backed by policy, institutions, and financing that match the scale of our challenges. We have been honest about the scale of the challenge we are facing as Africa. Our housing deficit now exceeding 50 million units, and it is compounded by the urban sprawl, weak planning and implementation capacity, limited access to financing, and land tenure distortions, among other constraints. We have also been clear that informal settlements, housing insecurity, and infrastructure gaps are not just technical issues. They are about dignity, safety, health, and real opportunity for millions of Africans. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I remain deeply optimistic that Africa will rise to the challenge because of the stakes, which are very clear, and the solutions that are within our reach. The urban challenges we are grappling with are not unique to Africa. Other continents have faced housing shortages, growing informal settlements, and infrastructure backlogs, and they have made progress. If it can be done elsewhere, it can also be done in Africa too. What will make a difference now is to resolve the determination, choosing delivery over delay, and implementation over declaration. Your Excellency, I want to appreciate the frank guidance by HE, the President of the Republic of Kenya, who reminded us that we must underpin success, strong political leadership, strong domestic revenue mobilization, and practical reforms that make affordable housing finance work for the ordinary citizen, and it is a need for our citizens. He also highlighted practical measures that deserve serious consideration across our continent and in our context. As we return to our capitals, the cities, the municipalities, let me carry 3 things from Nairobi: the knowledge we have gained, the partnerships we have built, and the motivation we have had in tangible ways for our people. Africa Urban Forum has also reminded us that this is not only a conference, it is a platform to connect, to understand who is doing what, to share new evidence and compelling statistics and stories, and to build coalitions that can deliver. 3 days were not enough for the scale of the task. We should keep the conversation going through the continued consultation, peer planning, and coordination as we follow up. In that spirit, I'm pleased to extend an invitation. Uganda will be hosting the 25th Rio Estate Conference in Kampala from the 8th to the 11th of September this year. I encourage you to join so that we can carry this discussion forward, but also deepen partnerships and accelerate implementation of housing for all. Let us end by sincerely thanking all excellencies here, distinguished delegates, UN Habitat, the people of Kenya, and everyone that has taken place in this forum. My special thanks to all my technical team of STC number 8, and special thanks to the African Union for the confidence and trust placed in me to chair the AUSTC number 8, which is running up to December, when I'll be handing over to another minister within Africa. And I want to thank you so much for your kind attention. I wish you safe travels and journey masses as you return to your respective countries. For God and my country, asante sana, merci beaucoup, mwebale nnyo bannange, God bless you.
Thank you very much. Let's give her another round of applause. Thank you, Waziri, our chair of STC 8. Your Excellency, one of the big takeaways in the last couple of days is that housing is not about 4 walls and a roof. That solving housing is also solving the big question of job creation and economies. And we need a lot of money. And to come and give closing remarks is the CEO of Shelter Afrique Development Bank, Mr. Habib Han, to come and give his closing remarks. Come on, let's give him a round of applause. And I used to sit in the board of Shelter Afrique for 6 years, and I know that we need members to pay our subscription so that we can have enough money to build more houses. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my dear brother and friend, champion and big fighter here. I would like to replicate many PS Hingers across the continent, across our member states, to really deliver like Kenya has. Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Excellencies, distinguished ministers, ambassadors, partners, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to warmly thank His Excellency, the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and the government of Kenya for graciously hosting this second edition of the Africa Urban Forum. As we come to the close of this second Africa Urban Forum, allow me to begin with a simple reflection. Over the past few days, we have not only discussed Africa's urban future, we have helped shape it. From our opening conversations here in Nairobi to the high-level dialogues, the deal room, which we completed successfully yesterday with few transactions that went through the deal room, and the many bilateral engagements, one message has come through clearly. Africa's urban transformation is not a distant prospect. It is a present reality, and it requires deliberate action. We have reaffirmed that housing is not merely a social good, but economic infrastructure. That financing is not only about capital, but about structuring, partnerships, and trust. And that the future of our cities will depend on how effectively we bring together public leadership, private investment, and development finance. Importantly, this forum has demonstrated that solutions exist. Public-private partnerships can unlock scale. Blended finance can make projects bankable. Climate finance can ensure our cities are resilient and sustainable. We've seen all the floods across the continent, even here in Kenya, where we all live and stay. But perhaps, most importantly, we have seen that the will to act is here. The true measure of this forum will not be in the strength of our discussions, but in what happens next, in the projects that move forward, in the partnerships that endure beyond this room, and in the capital that is mobilized to deliver homes and infrastructure across the continent. At Shelter Afrique Development Bank, we take forward the responsibility entrusted on us to act as a catalytic partner in mobilizing finance, structuring projects, and supporting member states to turn ambition into delivery. And we commit here today to mobilize all our African multilateral financial institutions gathered around the Amphi, which we set up 2 years ago on the sidelines of the African Union Heads of State Summit in Addis Ababa, to come together to drive Africa's development and own Africa's development. Because ultimately, Africa's urban future will be written in the homes that are built, in the cities that become more inclusive and productive, and in the opportunities created for millions of Africans, especially the youth, in terms of job creations. As we leave this forum today, let us carry forward with us not only ideas, but commitments, not only ambitions, but execution. Let this be the moment when we move collectively from dialogue to delivery. Thank you all for your presence, your partnership, and your commitment to Africa's urban future. Safe travels to all, and I look forward to the progress that we'll all achieve together. Thank you very much. Asante sana. Merci beaucoup, Jarama.
Thank you very much, Habib Han. Ladies and gentlemen, if we are going to fund the agenda, we need to fund Shelter Afrique so that we can have our own resources to sort out our issues. Your Excellency, one of the most marginalized person is the urban poor. And that became very clear with 1.1 billion people in the world living in informal settlements, and about almost 300 million in the continent of Africa living in informal settlements. We have got to do something about it, and one of the takeaways from these 3 days, Your Excellency, is that the resources are available because the theaters of economic development in our countries are in the urban areas. And so the paradox of where the wealth is in the urban areas, and yet we have the most marginalized person, the urban poor, living in there, we believe there is a solution in there. To come and crown it is our ED for UN Habitat, Anna Claudia. Come on, let's give her a round of applause. She has a huge responsibility of getting the 1.1 billion people out of slums. Good luck.
Not doing alone. Okay. Thank you, Inga. Good afternoon, Honorable Sister Alice Wahome, Cabinet Secretary for Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development, Honorable Sister Judith Nabakoba, Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Republic of Uganda, but also Chairperson of the AU Specialized Technical Committee on Public Service, Local Governments, Urban Development, Decentralization. Tierno Habib Han, my brother, Managing Director, Shelter Afrique Development Bank. His Excellency Moses Vilakati, African Union Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment. Your Excellency, Professor Kithure Kindiki, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Honorable ministers from across Africa, honorable governors, mayors, honorable ambassadors, diplomats, heads of delegations, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I think Nairobi made history. We had, in these 3 days, almost 8,000 delegates. They came here to Nairobi, not only to describe challenges, problems, difficulties, but to declare concrete intentions. Over these 3 days, we witnessed something extremely remarkable. Government from every sub-region of this continent, representing the vastly different geographies and economies, but united in their resolve, came together to talk about the urban solution, to be the urban solution. This convergence is not accidental. It is the invested years of continental dialogue, of shared frameworks built together, of the trust that has grown between governments, between cities, and between institutions. It is proof that when Africa chooses to speak with one voice, the world has no choice but to listen. The question before us has never been whether Africa has what it takes. The question is whether the global systems of finance, of governance, of policy will finally align to the pace and the scale of Africa's growth and ambition. Based on the discussions of this second Africa Urban Forum, we learned key lessons, centered, as it was said, to move from dialogue to intention to action. We spoke about financing models, we spoke about technologies, we spoke about urban transformation. And we recognize that housing is a human right, but it's not only about shelter. Housing is an economic infrastructure. The outcomes of this forum are directly linked to our UN Habitat's strategic plan for 26-29. And this connection is more than thematic aligned. It represented a coordinated global, regional, they were a continental mandate. And together, countries succeeded to establish non-negotiable priority that Africa will advance at the upcoming World Urban Forum 13 in Baku. We'll be together in Baku and inform the audience, inform the stakeholders of the advance in Africa. As captured in the Africa Affordable Housing Compact, adequate housing is a development priority and champions a different pathway to addressing the challenges of informal settlements. Country statements were unequivocal. Land is the foundation of urban transformation. Informal settlements are a reality that needs to be urgently tackled. We also heard that climate-resilient urbanization is an economic imperative, and that secondary and intermediary cities are the frontier of Africa's urban future. But supporting our metropolitan areas is essential. Also, we heard in this halls that African-led solutions are for African realities. Africa has proven models that deserve to be scaled, resourced, and shared as a global practice. I would also commend this forum for dedicating a specific substantive session to local governments and cities, showcasing their leadership. Let me emphasize that the future depends on co-creation and shared efforts. This forum is proof of that. As UN Habitat, we commit to transfer these bold priorities of the second African Urban Forum to the 13th session of the World Urban Forum. From the Nairobi Declaration to Baku, Africa's unified position. The Nairobi Declaration adopted at this forum is more than a communiqué. It's a commitment. The outcomes of this forum will feed directly into the World Urban Forum 13, directly into the ministerial meeting. Africa's delegation will work collectively in Baku to ensure that the WUF 13 outcomes reflect the priorities of this continent. The outcomes of this forum will also contribute to the new Urban Agenda midterm review. Our work together with the African Union, UNECA, will contribute to a perspective from Africa for the future of the new Urban Agenda. The SDG 11 review at the high-level political forum with, I don't live Nairobi, but you live, with the continuing legacy of our renewed urban space. Let us have the Nairobi Declaration as Africa's mandate. Let us use the Africa Affordable Housing Compact as our instrument. Let us make Baku our stage, and the cities of Africa, their people, their potential, their future, our purpose. As I conclude, I wish to extend our profound, deepest gratitude to all who made this forum possible. I wish to congratulate the government of Kenya, commend the leadership of President Ruto and the African Union Commission for their leadership, hard work, and vision in making this African Urban Forum #2 a resounding success. Please allow me to thank UN Habitat teams who supported this effort. In the name of our Regional Director, Omar Sila, I would like to thank the whole team of the Regional Office of Africa and the teams of our headquarters that helped us to support this important event. Thank you so much, UN Habitat team. We can all attest that from this forum, we emerged with a renewed sense of purpose, packaged in the Nairobi Declaration, a landmark continental position that shapes our urban engagements moving forwards. I thank you. Asanteni sana. See you in Baku.
Thank you very much, our ED, for those powerful remarks. Your Excellency, the late Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela once said, "What matters in life is not the mere fact that we lived. It is what difference we make to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the lives that we lead." And with those words, Your Excellency, allow me to invite our AU Commissioner, Mr. Vilakati, to come and give his remarks and also read the Nairobi Declaration. Karibu.
Director of Ceremonies, Your Excellency, Professor Kithure Kindiki, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Ministers and Heads of Delegations present, Honorable Alice Wahome, Cabinet Secretary for Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development of the Republic of Kenya, my chair of the STC, development partners, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. As we conclude the final day of the second Africa Urban Forum, I wish to express deep gratitude to the government and the people of Kenya in particular His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya, for successfully convening this forum and the commendable demonstration of Kenya's urban initiative that are building a sustainable future and serving a model worth of emulation. On behalf of the African Union Commission, our sincere thanks and appreciation also goes to all member states, our development partners, and the stakeholders who played a key role in the success of this important continental gathering. Their contributions enriched our knowledge on transformative urban policy and practice and have laid the foundation for the collective ambition and continental resolve required to address the urban challenges that we face. The contributions of our long-standing partners, including UN Habitat, UNECA, UNDP, Shelter Africa Development Bank, GIZ, and others, is really commendable. And thank you very much. Let's hope we can do it even next time. The forum has placed special emphasis on urban planning and infrastructure development, resilience building and sustainable urban development, smart cities, technology and innovation, financing and adequate housing, and urban development, transformation of informal settlements and urban displacement, as well as migration. A key takeaway of the forum is the need for a comprehensive assessment of the state of urban resilience in Africa, a concern that was addressed through the AUC report, which is themed Urban Resilience in Africa, a continental review, which was graciously launched by His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya. The AUC urges member states to effectively implement the AUF2 declaration, the Africa Urban Resilience Program, AURP, and translate the commitments on the Nairobi Declaration into tangible outcomes at all levels. Excellencies, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, the story of Kenya's affordable housing program has inspired all of us. And do pass our regards, Honorable Honorable Deputy President, to the Kenyan government. We are really proud. We went there, we saw with our naked eyes. This is inspiring. It demonstrates how a national political commitment was transformed into a fully fledged economic and social system that delivers dignity, that creates employment, infrastructure, and opportunity for citizens. It also showed how a country can mobilize its own people, its own resources, and its own institutions to drive transformative change. This experience reminds us that Africa has developed homegrown solutions and can inspire the South-South cooperation. Excellencies, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare for the upcoming World Urban Forum 13, Africa must carry a united and a strong voice to the global stage. The Nairobi Declaration should serve as a continental commitment to action, ensuring that Africa speaks with clarity, with coherence, and purpose in shaping the global urban agenda. Let us leave Nairobi with renewed determination to build cities that are inclusive, cities that are resilient, and cities that are prosperous. Stronger partnerships, shared commitment to implementation, and clear vision to render dignity and opportunity and sustainable development for all its people is really necessary. For participating in here, thank you very much. Your commitment, your dedication talks to Africa's urban future. Asante Sante, and thank you very much to you all. I have to do the impossible, so I need water. I hope the press did not pick this one. Now it's my pleasure to read the declaration. P.S. We were still doing, they used to call it homework when we were still in high school. The Second Africa Urban Forum Nairobi Declaration, Nairobi, Kenya, from the 8th to the 10th April 2026. We start with the preamble. We, the member states of the African Union and participants of the Second Africa Urban Forum, AUF2, convened in Nairobi by the African Union Commission and hosted by the government of Kenya from the 8th to the 10th April 2026. Express our profound gratitude to the people and government of Kenya for their hospitality and for hosting this Second Africa Urban Forum, acknowledging that Africa's rapid urbanization, coupled with insufficient formal and affordable housing and inadequate infrastructure provision, has been a key driver of growth of informal settlements, formal establishment, and increased housing insecurity. Recognizing that, on the other hand, urbanization is not only the future, but the best thing that ever happened to the environment, an opportunity that must be harnessed for the present and the future structural transformation of Africa, where the bulk of the GDP, the wealth, prosperity are produced, and most people live at a minimal scale of impact to the environment. Recognizing the opportunities presented by informal housing markets for innovation and development as drivers of economic growth. Recognize the strategic integration of special economic zones and industrial parks in urban planning as a key driver of structural transformation, job creation, local material valorization, affordable housing costs, and low-carbon urban transitions. Acknowledging that Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, will be successfully advanced by how African cities are planned, governed, and managed so that they become true engines of economic growth, social inclusion, and sustainable development, taking into account the guidelines of the African Charter on the values and principles of decentralization, local governance, and local development. Acknowledging that the youth, persons with disabilities, the women, and the people in vulnerable situations are disproportionately affected by inadequate housing and limited access to urban services that is a prerequisite for equitable and sustainable growth. Conscious of the persistent infrastructure challenges, including housing shortages, informal settlements, infrastructure deficits, economic disparity, poverty, environment degradation, and social inequalities that impaired technological innovation, growth, and well-being across the continent. Recalling the international guidelines on decentralization and the strengthening of local authorities adopted by the Governing Council of the United Nations Human Settlements Program in its resolution 2/1/3 of April 20, 2007. Reaffirming the commitments of Agenda 2063, the New Urban Agenda, the SDGs, the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, the Maputo Declaration of 2009, the STC-8 Brazzaville Declaration of 2014, the STC-8 Cairo Declaration of 2022, the STC-8 Tunis Declaration of 2024, and the AUF1 Addis Ababa Declaration of 2024, and the African Union Assembled Decision 933 on social justice in Africa, advancing people-centered economic, social, and environmental progress proposed by Tunisia and adopted at the heads of state and government level. Recalling the African Union framework for the implementation of the new urban agenda, the Africa Urban Resilience Program, the Building Climate Resilience for the Urban Poor, and the SDGs. Recalling the key continental initiatives and frameworks aiming at transforming continental economic systems and fostering economic trade and movement, such as the AFCTA, the PIDA, the Africa Digital Transformation Strategy. Aligning urbanization financing strategies with the emerging African initiatives on financial sovereignty, notably the new African financial architecture led by the African Development Bank, pursuant to a decision by the African Union. Acknowledging that Africa faces a housing deficit exceeding 50 million units, requiring urgent and concerted continental action to halve this gap by 2035. Mindful of complementary resolutions, HSP, HA2 RES7 on adequate housing for all, and HSP HA2 RES2 on accelerating the transformation of informal settlements and slums of the UN Habitat Ensemble. Mindful that sustainable urbanization demands an all-of-government, all-of-society approach and multi-level, multi-sector partnerships, and that moving from dialogue to measurable implementation is now imperative. Recognizing the AUF as a continental and South-South cooperation platform to champion affordable, inclusive, and climate-resilient housing, offering its policy innovations, pilot projects, and institutional reforms as a platform for South-South cooperation, acknowledging particularly the role of Kenya as a host of AUF2. Commend the government of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia for hosting the inaugural African Urban Forum on the 4th to the 6th September 2024, acknowledging the forum's landmark contributions to sustainable urban development in Africa, and urges all relevant stakeholders to take concrete, coordinated actions towards the full and timely implementation of the Addis Ababa Declaration, the principal outcome of the forum. Aware of the subnational and local governments' leading role in managing urban challenge on the ground, which calls for their empowerment in terms of land use planning, delivery of affordable housing, implementation of disaster-integrated and resilient urban infrastructure and equipment, fiscal capacity, and access to finance. Committing to empowering subnational governments as fiscally capable actors to deliver sustainable and bankable urban development. Cities and regions cannot deliver without sustainable finance. Recalling key continental initiatives and frameworks aimed at the Africa digitalization, appreciating the innovation and investment being driven by individuals and businesses both formally and informally in responding to particular niche markets that together build the delivery and management value chains that lead to sustainable human settlements, acknowledging the pivotal role of the private sector, our development partners, and other relevant stakeholders in strengthening resource mobilizations and catalyzing bankable investments to bridge recognizing the significance of African Green Climate Fund, National Designated Authorities Network, AFDAN, and access to climate finances to scale and in timely manner towards African cities' development as well as growth. Recognizing the need to establish a financial architecture that is dedicated to sustainable urbanization in Africa, the establishment of country platforms for the localization of financing. Therefore, commit to the following time-bound, action-oriented priorities. My apologies. We therefore commit to the following time-bound, action-oriented priorities. It starts with political commitment and policy reforms. 1, fast-track the realization of the UN Agenda 2030 on Sustainable Development Goal 11, linked SDGs and Aspiration 1 of the AU Agenda 2063 on a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. Number 2, prioritize and strengthen planification capabilities as well as housing in national development plans and, if applicable, in NDCs by updating urban planning regulations, developing integrated housing policies aligned with national urban strategies, and embedding housing interventions in fiscal frameworks. Prioritize and strengthen planification capabilities plan as well as housing. 3, 2B, leverage on industrialization to reduce construction time frame and cost. 4, support the global championship on affordable housing led by Kenya and to elevate it at the continental level under the framework of the African Union. 5, endorse the Africa Affordable Housing Compact as a continental platform uniting governments, the private sector, and the financial institutions to mobilize innovative financing, drive policy reforms, and deliver scalable, safe, and climate-resilient housing solutions that advance the right to adequate and affordable housing for all Africans. 6, strengthen the AUSTC8 and its secretariat and AUST5 as anchors for sustainable urban development, cross-sectoral AU mechanisms, and enhanced role for AU or AIDA NEPAD linked to PIDA. 7, invite Specialized Technical Committee number 8, or ST8, in its capacity as the leading continental board on housing and urban development to examine the possibilities of making urbanization management for structural transformation a priority theme for the AU during the next planning cycle by dedicating a session of the Summit of the Heads of State and Government to housing and urbanization in Africa, and if approved by ST8, to submit this proposal to the Executive Council for consideration. 8, embed urban innovation programs in national research and development strategies, aligning investment priorities with sustainable urban development goals. 9, commend Tunisia's leadership in putting forward social justice and urbanism as a central theme for upcoming Africa Urban Forum AUF2 and endorses its inclusion, recalling African Union Assembled Decision 933 on social justice in Africa, advancing people-centered economic, social, and environmental progress, adopted on its initiative, and underscores its significance in promoting inclusive, equitable, and sustainable urban development across the continent. 10, integrate special economic zones and industrial parks into national urban policies, housing strategies, and climate action frameworks, ensuring strong linkages with housing, infrastructure, and urban mobility systems. 11, commend the Kingdom of Morocco on launching, in partnership with UN Habitat, the regional platform for the new urban agenda in Africa, UAP, a strategic initiative aimed at accelerating the implementation of the new urban agenda across the African continent by strengthening regional cooperation, knowledge sharing, and support for national and local stakeholders in monitoring and reporting processes. On land, infrastructure, and supply policies and strategies, including but not limited to: 1, to unlock serviced land for affordable housing along urban corridors, aligning transport, energy in the housing and urban development sector, enhancing cross-border trade and investment in building materials across the region. 7, denies revenue and introduce land value capture in secondary cities and mechanisms that are accessible to informal sector actors and low-income households. 9, attract and retain professional municipal staff, bolstering technical capacity to build strong investment pipelines, accelerate project delivery, sustain life cycle maintenance, and strengthen monitoring and evaluation. 10, enable cities to access green climate finance, special purpose vehicles, as well as funding from regional banks, while creating regulatory environments that attract public-private partnerships for housing, for infrastructure, and urban services. Now, on national urban policies and territorial plans. Number 1, we urge every member state to adopt or update the national housing and urban policy and territorial plans, integrating housing targets, land use strategies, climate resilience, and infrastructure investment in a single spatial framework validated through participatory processes. Number 2, establish and operationalize country-level platforms for identifying funding sources with the aim of aligning national budgetary frameworks, financial institutions, and regional investment pipelines. Number 3, align national housing and urban policies with the harmonized regional framework for the implementation of the new urban agenda in Africa, the Africa Urban Resilience Program, including as appropriate integration into NDCs, and report biennially to AUSTC 8 on implementation progress. 4, recommend that the ministries responsible for finance take into account regional investment strategies into national budgetary frameworks and coordinate access to financing. 5, establish regulatory frameworks that promote innovation, experimentation, and pilot funding mechanisms at the local level. 6, develop integrated urban corridor master plans in cross-border regional corridors, sequencing transport, energy, and water investment to stimulate inclusive economic nodes and affordable housing supply with support from African financial institutions. 7, promote on-site rehabilitation, participatory planning, and the co-production of housing with communities as foundational and financial viable approaches. 8, incentivize African city regions to accelerate AFCTA realization through coordinated cross-border investment strategies, leveraging agglomeration economies and urban supply chains in conjunction with the African financial institutions. 9, facilitate cities' access to climate finance, specialized financing vehicles, pooled mechanisms, and programmatic approaches in order to aggregate projects and access capital markets. 10, strengthen financing engineering capabilities at the national and subnational levels by establishing financial structuring hubs which are dedicated to developing pipelines of bankable projects. 11, recommend that national urban policies and special plans to explicitly integrate the planning and development of SEZ and industrial parks as core components of urban and regional systems. On urban climate action and natural risks, seize the historic opportunity presented by hosting of COP32 by Ethiopia to amplify Africa's voice on urban resilience. Number 2, mobilize urban actors from across the continent and designate AUF2 as the springboard for a coordinated African cities at COP32 special event. 3, call upon member states, city networks, development partners, and civil society to ensure urban resilience, housing, human settlements, and job creations be placed at the center of Africa's COP32 agenda and commitments. 4, strengthen the urban focus on national determined contributions to better align local national actions and improve financing for city-level adaptation and mitigation projects. 5, support regional banks in their efforts to obtain accreditation from various climate funds, strengthen their internal standards, and channel regional funding through national platforms. 6, support regional banks in their efforts to obtain, let me repeat it. 5, support regional banks in their efforts to obtain accreditation from various climate funds, strengthen their internal standards, and channel regional funding through national platforms. While 6, support the implementation of key flagship urban resilience programs, which include SAGE, AURP, and BCRUP, and other initiatives which are aimed at building climate resilience among urban communities across all African cities and other urban areas. 7, encourage the development of green SEZs and industrial parks aligned with NDCs, promoting energy efficiency, low carbon, local material, and industrial innovations. On inclusive communities, 1, we need to integrate the housing and tenure needs of displaced persons, informal settlement dwellers, documented migrants with legal status, and host communities into national housing policies in accordance with constitutions, national legislations, and immigration policies of member states. Integrate the estimated 80% of Africa's urban workforce in the informal economy into urban development frameworks by extending social protection, legal recognition, access to finance, skills development, and affordable housing. 2, promote social and solidarity economy approaches, including community housing, cooperative mechanisms, and incremental construction models as institutional channels for financing and implementation. 3, mainstream gender perspective in the planning processes, ensuring at least 40% female and youth participation in all housing governance bodies. 4, recognize informal and community-based economic systems as key components of urban development and integrate them into formal frameworks for housing, finance, and production. On monitoring and reporting and verification, 1, encourage the adoption of a harmonized monitoring, reporting, and verification system for housing and urban development, developed with the Statistical Commission for Africa and the open-ended working group on adequate housing using quantitative and qualitative indicators aligned with NUA and SDG 11 in due consultation with member states. 2, encourage all member states to include progress on the implementation of their national urban plans in their reports submitted to the AUF2 on public service and administration, local government, urban development, and decentralization, while tracking commitments made under AUF1, AUF2, and future declarations. Follow-up mechanisms. 1, adopt this AUF2 Nairobi Declaration as Africa's collective implementation signal on housing and human settlements, anchoring Africa's engagement at WF13 in Baku, the high-level review of the NUA in UNGA, and through voluntary local review plans. Number 2, commit to actively engaging in the upcoming 10-year review of the new urban agenda, NUA, including by contributing coordinated African positions and evidence to ensure that Africa's urbanization experience, its priorities and progress inform the global assessment and any resulting recommendations or frameworks for accelerated implementation. 3, commit to contributing actively to the 13th World Urban Forum in Baku as a platform for advancing Africa's urban agenda, sharing continental progress and lessons learned, as well as strengthening partnerships with global actors on sustainable urbanization, housing, and human settlements in support of the new urban agenda and SDG 11. Number 4, request the African Union Commission to, 1, develop and coordinate a consolidated AUF implementation scorecard, tracking all member states' commitments on the AU digital platform, and establish a follow-up committee comprised of AU member states, AUC, key partners, this to convene a mid-term AUF2 implementation review in 2028 through national urban forums and regional peer reviews to assess progress, share lessons, and recalibrate the commitments. 2, ensure reporting mechanisms to ST8 and AU Executive Council on progress, challenges, and lessons learned. To national governments, align the national policies and fiscal support with local governments' priorities, ensuring the predictability of transfers and enabling conditions for housing investment. 2, facilitate regulatory reforms, access to finance, sustainable, predictable, and accessible finance and capacity building and technology transfer. 2, to cities, local and regional governments. 1, engage communities and informal actors as partners in housing delivery and urban planning. 2, implement participatory planning and localized data collection systems in line with the recommendations of the African Union report, Urban Resilience in Africa, a Continental Review, and monitor performance and optimize resource allocations. To civil society, the academia, researchers, and the private sector. Number 1, participate actively in reform coalitions in multi-stakeholder forums and community-led development initiatives. 2, provide the necessary technical expertise, research, and investment capital to scale sustainable and inclusive housing solutions. To our international development partners. Number 1, support financing, technical assistance, and knowledge sharing aligned with the realities of Africa's urban development. Number 2, facilitate cross-country learning, blended finance instruments, and targeted support for vulnerable situations. 3, in line with Section 3.4 on resource mobilization and financing planning of the Addis Ababa Declaration AUF1, Shelter Africa Development Bank in collaboration with other relevant partners to support member states, prepare and connect bankable, as well as housing and urban development projects with financiers and investors. Adopt this AUF Nairobi Declaration, committing Africa to measurable, time-bound action to achievable, adequate, affordable, inclusive, and climate-resilient housing and sustainable urban development for all. This done in Nairobi, Kenya, April 10th, 2026. I present.
Yes, I think he will call for adoption. The commissioner will call for adoption. This was to be done by Honorable Judith Nabakoba, and in the interest of time, it is agreed that the commissioner will do the call for adoption of this Nairobi Declaration.
May I now call for adoption of these Nairobi declarations by acclamation. Duly adopted. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you. Thank you very much. May I have my speech? Because now that I'm here, I take the opportunity to Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, may I take this early opportunity to thank you most sincerely for coming to this closing session. His Excellency has waited for us to go through our declaration. I think lessons learned there. Possibly next time, Your Excellency, we will not keep our guest through our resolutions. We might have to do that earlier, but thank you very much for your patience and for coming. Let's have a clap for His Excellency, Professor Kithure Kindiki, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, our guest this evening for the closing session. I will, Your Excellency, make just a few remarks and leave the rest to you and say that in this room, you have seen our able AU Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment, His Excellency Moses Virakati. We have my sister, we call each other now sisters. We have developed sisterhood. Her Excellency Anna Claudia Rosbach, the Executive Director, UN Habitat, and Under Secretary General for the United Nations. And then my sister from across the border who has left, Honorable Mheshimiwa Judith Nabakoba. She's also the chairperson. She's the Minister for Housing and Urban Development and chairperson STC. And I think she has done a great job with the committee. I will not allow me to also mention with a special recognition where is Habib? Yes, Habib, my good friend Habib. He is been very useful in these meetings, and I want to thank the entire team of Their Excellencies, the ministers, for even their patience up to this level. The hall is still full, almost to capacity. Thank you very much for your patience. And I can tell you, Your Excellency, we have spent our time very well. This time, if we have any paychecks, they should come in full. Your Excellency, let me just go through my few remarks and say that we have not lost many people by reason of time. We've met here the last 3 days, and the last few days, therefore, Your Excellency, for this Second African Urban Forum has been quite meaningful for all of us. Allow me to briefly reflect on the key areas that have emerged from our discussions over the past few days. And you know, between you and me, there are tips you always give me that when your boss is around, you don't talk too much. And I know you practice that also. Your Excellency, across the program, there has been a clear convergence around the need for more integrated approaches to urban development, bringing together housing, infrastructure, transport, and services around urban areas and elsewhere in ways that support both inclusive and economic growth. We have reflected on a more practical and scaled approach to informal settlements through upgrading, service provision, and tenure security. We have further deliberated on the need for stronger focus on urban economies, particularly markets and small-scale enterprises, both women and youth livelihoods, as well as the growing urgency of embedding climate resilience into planning, investment, and investment decisions. We have underscored the importance of strengthening delivery systems, including project preparation, coordination across levels of government, and financing frameworks that can support implementation at scale. No doubt, therefore, Your Excellency, when taken together, these discussions will provide us all a practical foundation for shaping the next phase of Africa's urban transition. Excellencies, I want to stop there and take the opportunity to thank Africa Union Commission on behalf of the government of the Republic of Kenya, and I know my Deputy President will pick it up because of appointing Kenya to host this second Africa Urban Forum. Thank you very much. Our regards. Without the presence and active participation of the member states, Your Excellency, we would not have had a successful 3-day conference. Your Excellency, may I also then therefore say that we have a state department called the Housing and Urban Development. I recognize my Principal Secretary, Charles Hinga, for being the most hard-working Principal Secretary in the Republic of Kenya. I hope I don't have trouble with the others. But insofar as my Principal Secretary is concerned, to pull this through, Your Excellency, with the support of UN Habitat, with the support of Habib there, AU Commission, and embassies representing the member states, we would not have this success at this stage. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you are going home, but you could actually stay in Kenya because Kenya is home. And you are most welcome to stay a little longer. That was the conference. We can start now the rest of knowing Kenya and Nairobi for that matter. And we really, I'm very proud to have hosted you. We have had actually a very smooth conference, Your Excellency. You can be sure. I don't know whether I should be saying that, but I have received, I'm just giving feedback, I have received a lot of good vibes, a lot of feedback from the ministers, my colleagues, and participants, and the technical teams of having done a good job as a country. Thank you very much. We look forward. Your Excellency, we had hoped, and I think we have made it, to build a stronger continental voice, Africa continental voice, as we agreed also, or discussed, that we will need to move together to World Urban Forum in May. And I think there is a convergence and energy, synergy created through these 3 days that we need to have a stronger position there and move together looking for solutions. But I also promised them that they need to apply extremely very good strategies in respect of getting the highest political leadership in this country. And therefore, you know, we had His Excellency yesterday pass our regards to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, let's put our hands together to bring forward His Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Thank you, Your Excellency. I think you have your podium. This Your Excellency, may I take it?
Thank you very much, my sister Alice. Please be seated. Excellencies, brothers and sisters, dignitaries, good evening. It has been 3 long days. Allow me to make very, very brief remarks this evening at the conclusion of a very profound event. And I want to start by giving you a short story, because I will not read my remarks. They will take a little longer. Allow me to give you a short story that happened in Kenya, in Nairobi. So the story is about Kenya and about President William Ruto The year is 2022, 13th September. And this story is not supposed to praise Kenya or to praise William Ruto, the president of Kenya, but is a way of work in progress that we are perfecting and lessons that the rest of the countries of Africa can pick and modify, improve, and perfect. For about 5 election cycles in Kenya, which are 5-year cycles, since 2002, every party, political party that canvassed for power had housing in its manifesto. What the party would do on the housing agenda, if elected. 2002, 2007, 2012, 2013, 2017, 2022. All major parties, those that won and the runners-up, the manifestos were not identical, but housing was a constant because of our long-term ambition as a country. And I believe that has been the case for many developing countries around the world, to provide access to affordable, decent shelter for its. So for 5 election cycles, every party that won and the runners-up had a manifesto. And in that manifesto, housing was part of it. But when it came to implementation of the manifestos, somehow, as a country, we ran away from this obligation, mainly because of the political difficulties associated around resource mobilization for implementation of this agenda. So the parties would use this to win election, but after winning elections, because of the political upheavals and turbulence associated with mobilizing domestic resources to implement this agenda, we would, as a country, back off from implementing this agenda. It remained on paper for all these years since 2002 until 13th of September 2022. That is the day President William Ruto was sworn in as the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya. He decided the time had come to implement the housing agenda for Kenya. He also decided to face head-on, withstand the political discomfort and turbulence associated with mobilizing domestic resources, which were critical to the success of the implementation of the housing agenda. The first year, praise, and we had a lot of upheavals in years now. In those 2 years, we have now 200 active affordable housing project sites in all the counties and all the regions of the Republic of Kenya. 2 years down the line, 270,000 homes are at various stages of completion. Some of them are complete and are handed over, others are in the process. And the next milestone of this story is going to be written shortly, when we will have 1 million homes either completed or under construction, and that time is coming very soon. We have, in the last 2 years, provided gainful employment to 640,000 Kenyans who were not working before 2022, now they are working. The next milestone of this success story is going to be written when we reach the 1 million employment mark in the next few months. And we keep on growing because this program is not going to be disrupted anytime soon. We have mobilized and signed contracts so far worth an equivalent of $5 billion without mentioning the contracts that are in the pipeline. $5 billion contracts already signed. Kenyan contractors, we have 800 contractors, 799 are Kenyan contractors. And the story continues. Kenya's affordable housing program will continue. And we hope, under the leadership of President Ruto, we'll be able to caution the program and the policy from what has bedeviled many good policies in the developing world. The challenge with the developing world is policy disruption, where a program like this, after 5, 10, 15 years is disrupted without any economic sense, just because of a new political dispensation. And we are praying this program becomes perpetual. You can imagine the statistics I've given you are for 2 years. You can imagine in terms of employment, in terms of physical infrastructure, homes. You can imagine in terms of resources mobilized domestically, if this program, what it has done in 2 years continues for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. If you come back 40 years from today, you will not recognize Kenya. And that's why we boldly say that Kenya's ambition to move to the first world is not far-fetched. It is possible. And if it is possible for Kenya, it is possible for any other developing country. It is possible for any African country. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, that is the story of Kenya. I am sure we have many other good stories. And the last 3 days, I'm sure you've discussed and exchanged ideas on other models in the continent, and even without it, that are helping us confront this issue with candor and clarity. One message that has come through consistently is that Africa is urbanizing at a pace that our current systems, financing models, and institutional capacities are struggling to match. And therefore, with expanding cities, populations that are young, demands for housing, infrastructure, jobs, and dignity growing every day, informal settlements all over the place, I think time has come for Africa to be accountable and deliberate and intentional. As has been said, the first defining variable is political will from the highest level. Without that, our programs, our policies will find the usual disruptions that have we have seen since Africa gained its independence 6-7 decades ago. What has also emerged is that it's possible to mobilize domestic resources. You can imagine the effort that Kenya would have made to raise $5 billion from multilateral lenders. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you can imagine the kind of effort it would have taken. So Africa's leadership must take courageous, deliberate, intentional, bold, and sometimes unpopular decisions. What we have learned from our own experience under the leadership of President William Ruto is that good leadership for our countries is not about popularity, because a good leader chooses the right thing over the popular thing. And a good leader does not seek to be popular all the time, but knows that they only need to be popular at the right time. What has also emerged from this event is that no country can do this alone. And therefore, the partnerships that are here, the African Union, as it coordinates us to achieve as individual countries, that coordination will remain critical. UN Habitat, our global partner in this process, your input becomes inseparable with our success. The raising of resources beyond the initial domestic resources that we are raising will still require resources from other actors. I see my brother Habib here, Shelter Africa, and everybody, the banks and so forth, and private sector generally. So, we must therefore tackle the financing issue, and I am glad at what I have been briefed, that this forum has distinguished itself not only by the quality of the dialogue, but also by the clarity of the outcomes. And I want to mention 2 outcomes. One is the declaration. I'm sure many would say that we've had so many declarations, but you need to start from a statement of intent and the scope of what you want to do. You have to put it down. You have to put the vision down. And therefore, I'm glad at what I have listened as laboriously read out by our brother there, the commissioner. At some point, I started fearing for you, my brother, because you took quite a bit of water. And I was wondering what happened when you ran out of water. But thank God you've done so well. Let's clap for Commissioner Moses. Good job. And therefore, this declaration is a good outcome. It's a covenant between governments and its citizens, and a covenant between ambition and delivery. Equally significant is the deal room, which I'm sure I've heard has been introduced here, and some deals have been closed. And I want to say the value of the deal room will be measured not by the conversations held in that deal room, but by the deals closed in that deal room. The commitments must translate into projects delivered, units constructed, and lives improved. This will require governments to act and to strengthen enabling environments, streamline approvals, and ensure that policy supports delivery at scale. Number 3 and lastly is the Affordable Housing Compact, which has been endorsed as a shared commitment for action. It reflects the growing recognition that housing is not just a social obligation, it's an economic imperative, a climate strategy, and a foundation for stability. Compacts require accountability, and therefore, we are required as governments, financiers, and private sector actors to be measured to ensure that what we promise, we must deliver. Here in Kenya, we are speaking from the 2 years of experience that we've had, and we are not giving our model as finished work, as I said at the beginning. We are giving it as work in progress, and we are inviting all our brothers and sisters in the continent to see what you can learn from ours, adapt, and improve, as we also seek to learn from your own models in your own beautiful countries. As we depart from this forum, and I thank our sister Ann Claudia, she said she's not departing because she's a Nairobian. And I think also Habib is a Nairobian. But as we depart from the forum, not from Kenya and not from Nairobi, I just want to leave you with this one last question, which is, what do you think will be different in your city 1 year from today as a result of the deliberations and conclusions of this forum? What do you think will be different in your city 1 year from today as a result of the resolutions of the Nairobi Declaration? And I say 1 year, not 5 years, not the next election cycle, 1 year from today. Because the true measure of this forum, the true measure of the impact of this forum will not be in the conversations we have had, but the progress we will be able to deliver out of it. We've made our choice as Kenya. We have chosen action. We invite the continent to move with the same urgency, clarity, if not better, and the same, if not better, commitment. Again, we must insulate the housing and the urban housing agenda from policy disruptions and sustain it for decades, 4, 5, 6 decades. And the change that we seek and the long-term solutions that we seek will be visible. People are going to be at the center of this transformation. Technology is going to be at the center as well. So we must look at new technologies, especially those that are cognizant of the climate risks that are mutating each day, and partnership so that we can be able to raise enough resources that are important to transform Africa, to transform Kenya, and to transform the world. On behalf of President William Ruto and the government and the people of the Republic of Kenya, I'm sure you know what I want to say. It is now my honor and privilege to declare the second Africa Urban Forum officially closed. Asanteni sana, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Shukran. Thank you.
Asante sana to His Excellency, and as he stands on stage, and thank you for joining him, we now rise, all rise, for the national anthem. Asante sana. And I will invite Your Excellency that you head on to the photo booth and photo wall, and it will be accompanied by our host Cabinet Secretary, Honorable